This woman posted in the Dating Over 30 subreddit, and dating, it just seems atrocious and exhausting. But she titled this, "He said men statistically don't hurt women, and they, as in women, just want free food, and now I've got the ick." She did give us an update, but I'll do the original post and then come back up to the update. She says, "I have taken a year or so off of dating, and I've come back feeling more grounded, intentional, and ready to take things slow for a change so I can get to know someone. I, 37-year-old woman, went on 2 dates with a man who's 42, and they went fine. I didn't feel any major sparks either time, but I was interested in getting to know him more, and we had a few good laughs and a general peaceful vibe, which I need. He's sweet, seems thoughtful, intelligent, and it doesn't hurt that he's handsome. He seems to have his life together and has a good job, takes care of his parents, and has lofty goals that he is pursuing, which is attractive. We had a third date planned, but last night we talked on the phone, and now I don't think I want to see him again. When he called, he said he had had several drinks with his friend and was tipsy. On the phone, we were enjoying our conversation, and then I mentioned that my family member would drop me off to the date because there's no parking where it's at. A note that we both maintained a neutral, non-argumentative tone, and we were just exchanging our feelings, albeit he sounded a bit like he was whining and pained/frustrated during parts. He offers to pick me up, and I said, no, thank you. I don't get into the car with new dates until we get to know each other better. He kind of laughs and says without taking a breath, God, it's so stupid. God, it's so stupid dating women. Can't even get into a car with a guy now. Dating isn't like it used to be. You can trust me. I'm a good guy. I'll pay for your Uber. Whatever. I'll show you my passport. You can see anything. It's so stupid that you can't even pick up your date now. Dating is stupid. I reiterate that I don't get into cars with dates until I get to know them better. Again, he insists that it's just stupid that dating isn't like it used to be. I follow up and express that many women take the same precaution and take their time to get to know someone. Again, he insists the same point but adds, it's stupid because statistically nothing is going to happen and women just worry. This time I mentioned that violence happens quickly, unexpectedly, and can and does happen at the hands of people who seem good. Then he replies saying that it just bothers him that I'm a good guy, and when you're a good guy, you don't have luck. Women don't want to be with a good guy. I see my buddy, and he just has so much success and gets so many girls. He has so much success dating. So I say, define successful dating. He stutters and says something about he guesses it varies per person, but doesn't specifically tell me why his friend is successful versus him. Then he says, it's just stupid because I spent 2 years taking women on dates and it got me nowhere. For what? Women just want a free meal and they'll just go out with you and never call you again. So I match his energy and say, yeah, that sucks as much as when men take a woman out just to have sex with them and then never call. I point out that he can choose and control whether he dates a woman and pays for her meal, and that not every woman wants a free meal. I add that while it's also true that not all men will inflict violence, the chance is high enough that it needs to be considered every time. Women can't control the violence a man may inflict on her, so precautions are necessary when meeting new people. In either case, it's important to communicate and vet somebody to see their true intentions, and then he trails off onto the subject of something else. On the second date, he had mentioned this buddy of his from the quote above. He said he's known him since kindergarten and that he's unfortunately a Trumpster, but he's a good guy. He's not racist. He's not homophobic. He treats his women well, he said. Because he's a childhood friend, they agreed to disagree politically and stay good friends. He mentioned this again on the phone. I was skeptical the first time I heard it because I don't think anyone who is for Trump is also not a racist, homophobic, misogynist, since those are some of Trump's core values. I flagged it in my mind to further clarify his point of view as we discussed political views on the first date, and he claimed to be conservative on the topic of guns, but nothing else. And we spoke about women's rights and human rights, etc. He conveyed compassion and kindness towards animals and humans. Despite things looking fine on paper, this new information doesn't feel fine. It feels telling, and I think he revealed his true feelings towards women. At the very least, his words show a lack of respect towards women, resentment, and a lack of compassion, empathy, and awareness of the female experience in the world. That doesn't sit well with me. Is it safe to say this needs to end? I'm checking in here because quite honestly, I'm still getting to know myself and I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm actually glad that I said as much as I did and that I stayed firm on my views. Past me would have never rocked the boat. Past me would have said, yeah, but he's got goals. Yeah, but he's good to his parents. Yeah, but he's handsome. Yeah, but he's very sweet. Not today. Today, me has eyes to see and ears to hear, and now I can't unsee or unhear it at all. It probably sounds odd, but I've really only just started learning how to be communicative, assertive, honest person. I've experienced SA and I just finished reading The Gift of Fear, and I'd like to trust my gut and his verbal admission on this, that he essentially dismissed my very basic safety boundary and began coercive communication that he couldn't support with logic when asked. But please tell me your thoughts as a normal human operating in a world where hypervigilance isn't your baseline. That was long, and like I said, I still have to go back up to see her edit. But the fact that she had a boundary and he immediately pushed past it or attempted to push past it was already a red flag. And I am glad that women are doing this and having boundaries and setting them just to see how these men react. Because if they react like this man did and just keep on reiterating that it's stupid, I mean, that's not a retort that makes sense. And women absolutely need to have a sense of self-preservation. Also, this dude has been dating for 2 years. Why is he so unlucky? Why are women bypassing him? So when he started talking about all of these women he's taking on dates, maybe he's just not a likable person. Toasted Enigma says, honestly, the guy lost me at not respecting the boundary, not getting into a date's car, and honestly saying, I'm a good guy. Any guy who has to say I'm a good guy while clearly violating boundaries is not a good guy. The rest of it is just confirmation. Next. She says, ETA, that means edited to add, hooray, letting go at the first sign and following your instincts will get easier with time. You deserve better. And by walking away so early, you're making room for the right person. So happy for you. Letters, Aikiro says, I'm a guy. I stopped reading at that part. Had the same reaction. Specifics of the rest are irrelevant to me. I knew what was coming. Let's go back up and see what her edit says. She says, edit. I just messaged him and said that after our chat last night, we see the world differently and that we should leave things here. I wished him well on his goals. He replied and asked what happened. I told him I didn't expect a simple safety boundary, driving myself to early dates, to be met with coercive and dismissive communication about women in the world. He replied saying, I don't think that's what happened. I said, it was sad that we live in a world where that's the case. I said, it's not up for debate. We see things differently, and that's okay. You said a lot more than that, and that's that. She says, thank you. Thanks for your affirming comments and advice. It feels good to detach at the first signs of misaligned values for once. High five. She said, misaligned values, and she detached at the first sign. That is amazing. Some people do not get to that point. She left. She did not invest any more energy. Good for her. Good for her. This is a great lesson to learn. Let me know what you think about this. I'm not going to dive deeper because this was already long just with her post. But I think that is a great lesson. Detaching at the first sign of misalignment. Amen. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. You are more than a wife and mom, even if you are a wife and mom. I was sent this post and this resonated with me on an organic level. She says, the erasure of self through motherhood and the time a mom group bullied me for asking to be called by my name, not mama. She says, I apologize in advance that this is a longer post. This happened last year around Christmas. And yes, this is a long post. Let me go ahead and get comfy. She said, I had joined this really popular Facebook co-sleeping group when my daughter was a newborn. She was born 5 weeks early and would only sleep on mine or my husband's chest. So I thought if we were doing this occasionally, I want to make sure we're doing it safely. So I joined the group, learned a few things. She transitioned to her bassinet very quickly, and I stayed in the group out of pure laziness. Fast forward to December, near the so-called 4-month sleep regression that somehow never even had. I posted a question in regards to that, and at the end, I set a very simple boundary. Hey, when you respond, please just call me by my name, not mama, and I'll own here where I went wrong. Sometimes I forget that not everyone gets my dry, deadpan, sarcastic sense of humor like my husband and friends do, and that tone doesn't always translate best through the screen, so I added, I did not get sliced through 6 layers of abdominal tissue for anyone in this group, so please call me by my name. I have an identity outside of motherhood. Thank you. That part right there. I have an identity outside of motherhood. Thank you. I know right there that is where she irritated some people, because some people do not have an identity outside of being a wife and mom. That is their whole identity. And that's what she just said. Apparently, that was the line that broke the group, because I woke up the next morning to over 200 comments and the post locked. About 20% were like, thank you. I effing hate this too. Maybe 10% said, I like being called mama, but never thought of it that way, and I'll keep this in mind in the future. A few offered cultural context, stating that in their culture, it's standard to call every woman, regardless of her parental status, mama, which I completely respect. The rest was middle school cafeteria energy. People were asking sarcastically if I was mentally stable or if I had postpartum depression, as I was clearly rejecting my role as mother. One woman tried to go all poetic, saying, one day when the purse becomes the diaper bag, you realize you are mama. What in the Shakespearean Hallmark hell are you even saying? Then came the infertility comments. You must never have struggled to get pregnant, because you'd wear mama like a badge of honor if you had. Oh, but I did, Karen. 3 rounds of letrozole, 2 infertility diagnoses, lean PCOS and a blocked tube, 1 loss, and a 1.5 years of trying to have her. Now I'm pregnant again, because apparently prior infertility isn't built in birth control. But anyway, on a thread where someone was defending me, a woman commented, well, she could have just said, please don't call me mama, thank you, and then gives these emojis, a happy face emoji, a yellow heart, and a flower. And I'm just like, how did you manage to survive in the years before pretty little emojis existed to make things palatable for you? I had multiple DMs calling me vile names I won't even repeat here as well. The thing that actually set them off wasn't the sarcastic tone. It was the idea that motherhood isn't my whole identity. My daughter and this little fetus boy are incredible parts of who I am, but they are not the entire thing. I'm still a wife, a friend, and a full human being with a name that I've had for 30 years. And just to clarify, on anonymous platforms like Reddit, I don't care if someone calls me mama. You don't know my name, so it's totally fair. This was about platforms where my actual name is visible, or in person when the person knows my name but still chooses not to use it. If you're wondering why this still bothers me, sometimes it ties into a much bigger picture. I'd heard a lot about the loss of identity in motherhood, but I expected it to be something internal. It wasn't. It was all external. It was the way society and even my family reduced me down to nothing but mama. The only people who still see me as the full human being I am are my husband and my friends who are child-free. Even my own family couldn't see me as their daughter, granddaughter, or person anymore. I couldn't even have a casual conversation about anything not related to my daughter without it being derailed. For example, I tried to share something small with my now estranged mom, like, hey, did you know our daughter shares a birthday with John Deacon, Queen's bassist? That music is my connection to my late dad and my all-time favorite band. I was just trying to have a normal conversation and share a sentimental thing that still involved our daughter. Her response was, cool. Pictures, please. Every single time, videos, pictures, anything that wasn't directly about my daughter got ignored. That played a huge role in why I'm no contact with them now. There's much more to the story, of course, but this was the central piece. In regards to my husband and I, we're both self-employed and we generally split parenting and household tasks. There have been times when his freelance work picked up and I took on more, and other times when mine did and he took on more. If I'm being real, the latter has happened more often. Yet, even when he was doing the bulk of the day-to-day parenting and domestic labor, not a single person ever reduced him down to one role or just dada. I know a lot of this is societal, but I think it could go a long way if as fellow mothers, we started recognizing each other as whole human beings, not just a caregiver, not just mama, but a person with thoughts, passions, and a history beyond our children. I also want to model for my daughter that she herself is always a whole human being, and I will always love her for who she is as the full, complete person she is first and foremost. Should she choose to have kids one day, of course I'll love my grandchildren, but she will always be my baby first, and I will always see her as the whole human being she is. The same goes for this little boy I'm carrying. If one day he marries a woman and they have children, I'll treat my daughter-in-law the same way, with recognition, respect, and love for her full self. Because I know what it feels like to be reduced to a single word by people who are supposed to love you unconditionally as your whole person. Seriously, unless it's an anonymous platform, you're one of my children, or unless the ghost of Freddie Mercury himself shows up to bless me and say, Mama, oh, please just call me by my goddamn name I've had for 30 years. Now, that was a bit of a heavier post, so let me end on a lighter note. When this whole debacle happened, I was venting to my husband, who of course fully agrees with me that it was ridiculous and was very supportive/comforting while I was upset about the bullying. But then he gently pointed out a bit of hypocrisy. For someone who hates being called mama, you sure have been calling me daddy an obscene amount. Touche, sir, touche. Anyway, if you struggled with this too, just know I see you. Feel free to drop something about yourself that has nothing to do with your children, and I'll gas you the hell up. I absolutely love this. And I do believe, and I will say this time and time again, these helicopter parents, the ones that have adult children that can't get a life, that want to meddle in their children's marriages, they do this because they don't have a life outside of their kids, and they can't let go because they have no personality, because they let everything go once they became a mother. I put this on the post. This is great. I absolutely love everything about this post. I'm a wife and mom and implore women to have an identity that's not just a wife and mom. Just a couple of comments because yes, that was long. MN Concerto says, I'm sorry I call fellow women by their names. There's no reason to apologize for that, regardless of them having children or not. We are more than our ability to give birth. Call me a crabby, not giving an F 59-year-old woman, but I would have lost my mind if everyone called me mama when I had young children. Jane Not Knowing says, I took my daughter to Pony Club and the instructor kept calling me mom. He was my age. I said 3 times that my name was not mom and to call me by my name. When he didn't, I didn't respond at all. He tried again, still not using my name. I kept ignoring, and finally he called me by my name. It took 30 minutes for this BS to stop. When we went the next week, he actually used my name without reminding. He called all the mothers mom, but called the fathers by their names. And this is a boundary. He said he didn't give a good goddamn about her boundary, and I'm going to push through it. Anyways, y'all chime in. What do you think about? Whoopsie, I got cut off. Chime in and let me know what you think about this one. Like, comment, and share. A woman asked this question in the Ask Women subreddit. She says, young wives, do you regret getting married young? Why or why not? Now, this post had some mixed reviews, and I thought that it would be interesting to go through some of the answers from the ladies. Mountain Cat says, I was married at 23 and have now been married for 5 years. Yes, I do sometimes regret it. We have both changed and grown a lot since getting married, and I often wonder that if we had married at our current ages, will we still be together? I feel like we aren't as compatible as I thought we were when dating, and that is largely contributed to the fact that he hid a lot of things from me through our dating phase in the first 2 years of marriage. He finally admitted some heavy stuff a couple of years ago, and we're still struggling to get our relation back to where it was when we first married. So our relationship has been at least a little rocky since the beginning. I would highly recommend waiting until at least your late 20s to get married. It would have saved me a lot of heartache if I did. Normal asked the questions, how long were you guys dating before getting married? And also, if everything was the same, but you just weren't married, meaning you were in a relationship and lived together, do you think you might have given up on the relationship easier, or would it be the same? Mountain Cat says, we dated for 5 years, met when I was 18, fresh out of high school, and got married right after I graduated college. He graduated a year prior. We didn't live together until after we got married. Yes, I do think I would have given up on the relationship earlier. I'm frustrated, but I also have so much invested in this relationship. For example, we moved out of state for jobs. We have 4 cats, and one has severe health issues. I just started a new job, etc. I do truly love him, and I guess I'm just waiting to see if things improve. Our relationship isn't bad, but it's not where I want to be. We have grown into different people since we married, so I think we just may be growing apart. And that's the thing. This is one of the reasons why I don't think it's good to get married so young, but because you're still learning yourself. And if you're with someone fresh out of high school, who you are in high school, who you are in college and after college, who you are after your very first job or your very first move, or getting to know yourself after you move out of your parents' house. All of these phases are so different. So I think that it's best to learn who you are and give that man a chance to learn who he is to see if your values align. All right, Tough Response says, I got married about a week after I turned 18. I met my husband when I was 14 and he was 15. When we were in our early 20s, we did do a 6-month separation, but we talked on the phone every night and we really missed each other. So we eventually ended it. However, due to us being married so young, I actually think that 6-month break was crucial to our survival. We learned how much we enjoyed being in each other's life. We learned we wanted to work for our marriage. I'm 36 in a couple of days and we're still married. My husband is my #1 fan and I am his. And like I said, these answers are a mixed bag. Some women regret it, some have some regrets, and some are just like, yay, let's go. I love this. Appropriate Sky says, wow, I have so many questions because I'm 36 too. Did you feel like you were ready for marriage at 18/20? Was it difficult to be married so young? She says no, and I don't think he felt ready either. We had 1 child prior to 18 and then another before 20. We never had more kids after that. Yeah, we were young and stupid. I have told people that I didn't truly love him for about 5 years. He knows this too, and we talk about it now that we almost feel like an arranged marriage in some ways. We were pushed very strongly to marry after we had our oldest daughter, who is just now starting her 2nd year of college. We grew to love each other very deeply. At this point in my marriage, my only complaint would be he puts ingredients away before I've used them when I'm cooking. And the other thing is he wears the shoes in the house occasionally. And I've told him I think it's gross. Ha. Other than that, nada. I mean, okay, that sounds reasonable. Obviously, everybody is going to have some kind of complaints. Those are some complaints that you can deal with. Miss Rarity says, married at 21, divorced at 32, now 43 and happily remarried. I absolutely regret marrying young. I had 2 kids with my first husband, and having to continue to be in touch with him for co-parenting purposes is 80% of the stress in my life. I don't think it's impossible to have a good marriage after marrying young, but I wish I'd been taught healthy things about red flags to look out for, what love bombing looks like, how emotionally abusive people work, when you should walk away, etc. In my early 20s, I believed dumb movie mantras like, all you need is love. I dated much wiser in my 30s. She says, there was a question about when I saw red flags and when it all became too much, but it got deleted. Here's my response. There were no obvious red flags until the engagement. He let the mask slip twice, blaming me for a minor car accident 100% caused by him, and telling me he'd been tempted by another woman a few weeks before the wedding. Now, I would run from either of those things, but at the time, the thought of breaking off the engagement was mortifying. Plus, I reasoned he'd been so wonderful in every other way, I could let those things slide. By 4 to 6 months after the wedding, the love bombing had stopped, and he'd morphed into a collection of red flags in the shape of a person, constant weaponized incompetence, snapping at me in public over minor things, emotional manipulation, paranoid accusations, erratic behavior. I stayed with him for religious reasons and because I held out hope that the guy I'd fallen in love with would come back, and I learned to live with or tiptoe around him. It became unbearable after the 9-year mark because he really ratcheted up the financial abuse and infidelity. He kept stealing or spending our rent money and I was not going to go homeless for this dude. Plus the hypocrisy of his antics with other women, it boiled over. Today, I would consider love bombing a red flag, but it can be hard to spot. It's healthy to have some initial excitement about a new romance, but a person who constantly praises you and showers you with gifts and affection for months is probably trying to get you to buy a sparkly turd. And that's the reason why we have to continue to talk about red flags, manipulation, love bombing, and all of that, especially when you're younger and you don't have any kind of dating experience and the women in your life haven't brought you up on game. The reason why we have to keep having these discussions is because sometimes people are not taught how to date and how to spot these types of things. And maybe we can help some women avoid the love bombing. Crazy Miss Daisy says, 20 years down the line, no, I do not regret it. He's a great man, and we've only grown closer as the years went by. Aqua's Tonic says, I agree, it's the same for me. We celebrated 20 years, and we got married when I was 18, and he was 20. We've grown together, and we have changed, but together, our morals, values, and beliefs still align where it matters. Crazy Miss Daisy says, seems we're the same age, and yes, exactly, our core values still match, and even though we grew as people, it was in the same direction. That is the key. Some people stop growing, some people grow apart, and that's important that you're actually growing in the same direction. Pop C at the bottom says, same here. Don't you love how you've grown together? But of course we all evolve and grow on our own, but there is something so sweet about knowing each other for so long. Kimmy Weck says, engaged at 20, married at 22, 2 kids later, and got divorced at 38. Yes, I regret not waiting to establish a better career and to date around more, to find someone more compatible. We were young with rose-colored glasses and didn't really think it through long term. It led to a lot of arguments and resentment. The only thing I don't regret is my wonderful kids. I get along with my ex, which is good. I know not everyone does. On my second marriage now and doing well. QZ91 says, what aspects of compatibility did you find were necessary for you? And Kimmy says, where we wanted to live long term, making family a priority, mutual trust and respect. This is, I'm going to end it here because I think I've shown a pretty balanced situation. The reason why I say things like wait until you know yourself and get established is for these reasons, because you do want to, I think it's so important to get your education, get your career footing, and know yourself. Some people do get lucky though, so I wanted to make sure that I showed both sides of these things. But I do want y'all to go ahead and chime in. Let me know what you think about all of this. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and I'm pushing towards 100,000 over on YouTube, so go ahead and subscribe. I was tagged in this doctor's video a few days ago. She captions it up here, "A Miracle, an Empty Labor Ward." And here's her caption. She says, "In my 6 years as a doctor, I have never experienced this. Are there people who experience this often?" This was on October 13th. She says, "What a lovely memory made. The interns are so fascinated. This is the best thing I've ever seen. There's no way. I wish I could record them. I don't think they could see that I'm listening. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have been busy since October 12th at 8 a.m. till October 13th at 1 with one meal. Then obviously not sleeping because you still get called throughout every other 30 minutes and one ICU patient. It just meant I didn't have to review the ward on top of that. My nurses, they were probably well rested. So they just get a small break because the labor ward is empty. But this is South Africa, and this has 10,000 comments. The girlies are speaking. The girlies are speaking across the globe because they are seeing and understanding why they need to pull back, why they need to clamp down on those wounds, because across the globe, things are not great. Things are terrible. There's so much violence towards women and children. And this is how women are speaking. They're speaking by pulling back and clamping down on those wounds. Let's get into a few of the comments after the video. This is the first comment from Mama Lisa. She says, "The decrease in birth rate is a result of absent fathers. We refuse to be single mothers. I love women in this generation. Keep it up, ladies." Dark Beauty says, "Absent fathers, gender-based violence, lack of government support, economic conditions, unemployment, inflation." When I talk about these things, these are similar issues all around the globe. Scaramucci's Underwear says, "I'm so proud of this generation's women." Me too. I am so happy for us. Nalita says, "Same thing happened on the day I delivered my baby. I was the only one in the labor ward on the 8th of July, 2023. The nurse says, 'Didn't you get the memo, Conti?' This next person says, "Same with me. I was the only one on November 10th, 2024. So alone, ha ha ha." Mashia at the bottom says, "Could this be an indication that the birth rate is decreasing?" It absolutely is. And I know that it's high in some places. I get it. It's high. But the thing is, it has consistently been coming down. So you have to look at it as compared to other years, not necessarily compared to other countries, which has already plummeted. Nantethalelo, maybe that's her name. "I'm proud of my sisters. Get those degrees, sign those contracts, expand those businesses, buy the land, build houses, and buy yourself a car for every mood you're in." Manchanga says, "And don't forget to travel." And Dark Beauty also says, "Please travel." This has 10,000 comments, so I'm not going to go through them all. Null says, "We are not doing enough, ladies. We must stop to the point of the government begging us to give birth. Good job, ladies." But then Sav and Leah says, "Paying actually, not just begging." And that is true. Our actions will cause changes, but we have got to collectively get on board with this. And this is a start, and I am so happy that this lady, this doctor from South Africa, took this video. Let me know what y'all think.
And before I close my eyes tonight, it is with a sober heart and a clear mind that I extend two full middle fingers to all of you that didn't vote, told others not to vote, and those of you that voted third party, knowing full well we are in a two-party system that wasn't going to change in a few months. It is because of you that now we're going to end up in a one-party system when they gut Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. That's what's going to happen. It was the one thing holding states accountable for representation. As soon as this is passed by the Supreme Court, because that's how ignorant they are, as soon as they overturn this and take this away, those states are going to start gerrymandering. Representation will be gone. Do you hear me? They're going to gut and take the filibuster. There will be no representation because they know that most of us vote Democrat. And that's not what they want. This is what is happening here. 60 years. My mom was born in 1958. Before this, she is still here. I just don't understand what has happened to this country. I know how we got here, but I don't understand right now the complacency, okay? The capitulation. I don't understand any of it. I don't understand how we got here now. My God, today.